Hey y'all, it's Nomadic Shaman here. Thank you for joining me. Before I jump into my story or continuation of my story, I did want to make an announcement. For those who followed me from TikTok to here, you guys may have come to realize, probably even sooner than I did, that I have been banned from TikTok. Actually, both my main page and my backup page. And so, one thing that I realized with going all through all of this within spiritual warfare is that if they can't affect you spiritually or no longer have the same effect on you spiritually, they will come and attack you physically. And so that's essentially what happened. Your girl ended up getting fired on her day off. Like literally, I went ahead, I literally was just like, okay, let me take a break from TikTok for a bit and let me leave the posts that I've created, which were promoting, what was it, the one thing I did with Delphi Priestess, and I think I did like an update video. And so those were the only two videos that I had made before. Well, anyways, those were the two videos that I had made. Your girl tried to log in yesterday and found out that my page was banned, okay, due through many violations via the community guidelines and my backup page. I even have a post. I had two posts on my backup page. It was just like my backup page was getting strays. Anyways, I say all that to say, if you find yourself coming to my page at least 3 times and you are not subscribed, what I'm asking of you is to please share this information, okay? Reach one, teach one. Each one, teach one. Each one, reach one, okay? And if you've subscribed to my YouTube page, great. But if you feel that you're coming here and you're gaining, whether it's information, empowerment, encouragement, entertainment, and it's at least your 3rd time visiting this page, please help me to reach out to the collective at large and share the information. Okay, so with that, thank you in advance, and let's move forward. Now, there were some of the things that I do want to touch base on because either I didn't touch on it or I just wanted to provide further clarification. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to mention was, as I was sharing my story relating to my testament in Philadelphia and only knowing of one baby mama and at some point the girlfriend. Just to give you a visual, the one baby mama that I knew of that was in the picture, she holds a physical resemblance to Drea Michelle from Basketball. Is it Housewives? Basketball Housewives. So all this time when I'm going to psychics and I'm getting information, this is the woman that I have in mind as a visual, okay? As the baby mama who is the source of all this fuckery. Now, the guy in question, the youngin', he favors, I always thought he looked like Colin Kaepernick, but he would get, excuse me, he would get Nipsey Hussle, and he would also get Bob Marley. So that gives you an idea of what this guy looks like, okay? Now, with that, let's move on. The first thing I wanted to address, I wrote my notes here too, y'all. The first thing that I wanted to address was the 53-year-old. Let me address him first, and then I'll address the story. Now, or I'll say it like this. Because he tends to find his way to my platforms, I'm going to put it like this. There were things that you have done in the past that you have been arrested for, okay, and put in prison for. There's something that you did in 2021, and it's something that you've done again in 2025. If you have not done it in 2025, you are contemplating it and you will move forward with doing it in 2025. Understand, you will get caught and you will be put in prison once you do it in 2025. That is my message from the Most High to you. Okay? Now, let's finish the story. As it relates to the 53-year-old, since he's on the topic at hand, one is he had shared with me that he did some time. And at first I'm like, oh, what? Like military time? And he was just like, no, he did prison time. And he had shared with me that he was in for burglary. Was it burglary? Or maybe I'm getting it confused. I think it wasn't burglary. I think it was like possession, drug possession, or something along that nature. Okay. Now, it wasn't burglary. It was possession of drugs. Now, the warning that I gave him has nothing to do with that. It's something separate. Okay. He knows. I'll leave it at that. The next part is there was the youngin in the DMV, the one where we had an amazing physical and sexual chemistry. He was the one that told me that he did time earlier, or he did time at one point for burglary. Now, mind you, when these two individuals shared this with me, they were very transparent, open, honest, direct, and they had also admitted how they were since then reformed, meaning like what they did was all circumstantial because of the financial situation that they were in. And so here's my ass. Oh, you're reformed. Okay, great. And which is why I gave them a chance or an opportunity. And when I say opportunity, meaning access to me, my space, my energy. Okay. The one thing, and it was funny though, because now that I think back at it, I think about how the youngin, how he would sleep. And this dude would literally sleep like a nigga who slept in prison. Like, if you ever seen the shows where, people be sleeping on their back and got the whole pillow like right back and one leg extended out, I don't know. Okay, it makes no difference. But that's kind of like what it reminded me of. Okay. But going back to a conversation that I had with him, and I remember very early on, he had shared with me a little bit of what he did, but didn't go too much into it. He said he was a contractor. He said he traveled a lot for work. And he did a lot of different things. But then he said, please don't ask me any more about what I do. To which I said, all right, cool. I'm good with that. I probably would have asked. I don't know, whatever. But I'm like, cool, we good. I don't need to know. I mean, this is just a physical thing. And it was like it's like a one night stand. It could have turned to two, but I opted not to entertain it. Okay. Now, I will say, with all that being said, the devil was selling low vibrational hot plates. And I was saying, like, how much can I get? I was trying to broker a deal with how many low vibrational plates that I could buy off of him, especially in that moment. Okay, I am owning that. I was operating out of an unhealed and low vibrational state. Okay, both in 2020 and 2021, y'all. I admit that and I fully own that. All right. The other part is I remember, the next morning, I remember I had offered him a towel. This I'm talking about the youngin' now. I had offered him a towel when he went to the restroom so that he can get freshened up. And I noticed he was in the bathroom for a minute, and I think I had somewhere to be, so he had left out. But when he left out, I remember him not taking a shower, and I'm thinking like, yo, him not taking a shower the next morning. To which my next point is, these people who are involved in these spiritual sex cults, spiritual groups that engage in sexual activity, exchanging of the energy and things, they purposely will not wash themselves, okay? Because your energy, that means your energy is most potent. So that way they can easily bring it to somebody else and do what they do and exchange the energy, okay? Spirit did reveal to me that he was part of the same sexual cult or sex cult, or I don't want to say coven, but we'll just say cult, sex cult, as the youngin from Philly, okay? The one who looks like Nipsey Hussle, Bob Marley, Colin Kaepernick. They both knew each other and they were both involved in the same sexual cult. Now, did I know that at the time? No. That was something that Spirit had divulged to me later on. Okay, so then one thing that I wanted to share with you was, and I'm not sure if I should relate, fuck it, let me just do it. There was one point where there was somebody who knocked on my door and they were selling me a service from, I believe it was Verizon Internet. And it was funny because I couldn't recall or remember who it was, but it's like my body remembered. And the guy looked very familiar to the guy, the youngin of the DMV. And at that point, I had not put two and two together. Okay, mainly because the guy that was at my door looked different. He looked a little different, but he looked similar. He looked similar, but then different. So at that point, I did not put two and two together, and Spirit was just like, it was the same person. Okay, and this happened recently. I think this happened in 2025. So he remembered where I lived from 2021, popping up at my door in 2025, trying to sell me a service for internet. Okay, so this is further validates that they all part of the same motherfucking group. Okay, now the other part that I wanted to mention, it was this year, not this year 2025, but this year in 2021, where my phone was hacked. Okay, so in other words, screen mirroring is essentially whatever shows up on your phone, they see it too. My phone was hacked. My emails were hacked. My apps were hacked. Okay, starting of April of 2021. This is also not this year, but Spirit had also informed me that this was the same year, 2021, that the Philadelphia youngin became part of the Freemason group. So we already know that, one, he was affiliated with the gang. Two, he became a Freemason. And three, he was part of the sex cult that was going on. I don't know why I'm hearing Luciferian, but let's just say sex cult. Okay? Now, I don't think that's relevant. I'm trying to... Okay. So now, I kept notes to keep me on track, y'all, or else I'll talk at a tangent. One woman that I did want to shout out, her name is Quarant. She goes by Quarant Sunchild. Now, I went to her for readings in the year of 2021, but it wasn't so much general readings. She does this thing that's called spiritual background checks. So I performed a spiritual background check on the old man, and also the youngin from the DMV. Okay, I did do that. Now, we all know that you're not supposed to be reading people's energy without their permission. So she read my energy, and she read the energy around that under the spiritual background check. So I wanted to give her a shout out because she also was definitely an integral part as far as helping me to gain more information and piece things together. Okay, because mind you, I was still coming into my spiritual gifts and learning how to trust my intuition more. Okay. The last thing that I wanted to touch on as far as this, so if we're going back, because I spoke a little bit about the one thing I forgot to mention, the disagreements that the older man and I had that was very off-putting for me was this dude would talk to me straight up like a nigga on the street in our disagreements. And so that's what threw me all the fuck off, all the way off, to which I turned into that nigga on the street. You hear me? When going against him as far as a disagreement. And when I did that, I was just like, I don't need to be with somebody where that side of me, the old part of me, comes out in that type of way. Because your girl really was on some, I want to change. And if there's somebody who comes into my circle that doesn't bring the best part of me, then obviously they don't need to be in my life. So I remember thinking in our disagreements that he was coming at me like a straight up dude that was coming at him on the street. And that's when I turned up into that's when I turned into that dude, on the street. And I just remember us like arguing basically how two niggas will argue. I tell no lies. And so, and that would be like the verbiage, you know what I'm saying? The bravado, everything. You know what I'm saying? That's when I was just like, no, I don't like being in this energy. So that really turned me off. That happened on 2 different occasions. And I was just like, yeah, it's a no for me. Okay. I did have Twitter. I forgot. I messed up. I did have Twitter. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was the satanic ritual abuse. One of the things that they would also do was blood sacrifices. Okay. And you're probably like, how? They would either use their menstrual blood for spell work, for offerings, or they would use mine. You're probably like, how would they use yours? They would specifically do spell work against my womb, my sacral chakra. Mind you, I had the IUD, so my menstrual wasn't supposed to be coming on. So they would invoke my menstrual so that it would come on. And of course, with that, I'm using tampons or sanitary napkins. They would be going through my trash or having somebody go through my trash to take the used sanitary napkins and or tampons and use it as part of their spell work. This was part of the blood sacrifices that they were doing against me, okay? The other part that I wanted to add is, make no mistake about it, a lot of them, not a lot, but a lot of the people that were attacking me, both witches and warlocks in the astral and also within my dream state, were also like sexually assaulting me in my dream state and in the astral, like literally trying to fill your girl up. Okay, so those who can feel spirits, I'm not talking about feeling their presence, I'm actually saying like feeling physical touch, would understand what I mean by that. Okay, so they would do things like that, like pinch my ass, slap my ass, stuff like that in the astral. Okay, so assault, they would do that. Um, so dream state and the astral state. They would also, I mentioned beforehand, it was sex magic to gain my energy, my sexual energy, my sacral energy, right? And they would even do it where, let's say, if I ever decided to self pleasure myself, they would come in through the astral and take the energy right before I climax. So then your girl had to even stop doing that, because I would do that as a way for manifestation. Okay, that was one of the ways that I would do to manifest using my sacral energy. And there was a point where I had to stop even doing that, because they would be like, they knew how, because there was a cord attached to my sacral chakra from the youngin who I had slept with. Now, for those, and the youngin who I had slept with, I'm talking about specifically the Philadelphia youngin, he was my twin flame. So we had an energetic cord. I mean, these people were fucking crazy in a sense where they were trying to marry me in the spirit while marrying him in the physical. You see what I'm saying? This is the things that they tried. This is the things that they did. This is the things that they were successful in. Marrying him in the physical and marrying me in the spiritual. Okay. They would also create clones in the spiritual of me, of my using my energy. And they would go about committing spiritual crimes. Now we all know, as above, so below. So what does that look like in the physical? That also looks like in the physical committing identity fraud in my name or in my business name, and doing a whole bunch of fraudulent activities, so that if and or when they get caught, everything comes back to me. This is the same thing that was happened to me in the spiritual. Your girl even had to go to spiritual court for the spiritual crimes committed against me. Okay. What else am I missing? I can't even read my own handwriting, y'all. They would also do readings on me every single day. See what's coming down the pipeline, turn around and do spell work to block, stop, or destiny swap whatever good that was coming into my life to prevent this from happening. So on top of all the attacks, they were also doing readings on me. They had also had a layout of my birth chart. Okay, and within my birth chart, all the houses, they essentially had assigned each house to a different coven member that was doing spell work on me against each house. Okay, this is what Spirit showed me. Just to give you an idea of some of the bullshit and fuckery that I was going through and I was facing at the time. The last thing that I would say is it does a number on your emotional and mental health. If anyone has been sexually assaulted, right? Either in childhood, adolescence, or a young adult. And then for someone to bogart your boundaries and carry that out in the dream state or even in the astral, to like sexually assault you in the astral or sexually assault you in the dream state. And we all know that is to break you down. This is also what they were doing in addition to all of the attacks. spiritual, the psychic attacks, the physical shit that I was having to deal with. All of that, okay? All of that was running concurrently on top of the stalking and the spying, okay? So I am going to stop right here, and then I'll see you on the next video.